Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of One Mic where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about a new show, the first episode, the premiere of Mare of Easttown, starring Kate Winslet. Guy Pearce was in this first episode. Evan Peters is going to be joining, I believe, in the next episode. This episode was titled Miss Ladyhawk Herself. The HBO put it in like their prestige spot, like that Sunday at 10 o'clock. You got Sunday at 9, Sunday at 10. That's where HBO puts all the stuff they really want to get in front of the audience. And they do that. I got to check it out. They've made a habit of finding new shows that are really big hits and are really good, and in between each of those shows, putting out something that's like maybe like a limited series starring like an Oscar winner or something like that on television. And it's a cycle at this point. It's like, okay, here's a big time show or the new season of a big time show, and then that wraps up. A couple of new things. Here's another season of a show that we're already accustomed to. A couple new things, and going from there. So I like to give those new things a chance because that new thing could be the next big thing. So you could be watching the next Game of Thrones. So I like to give HBO as much of my time as I can because they never ever waste it. So having said that, I didn't particularly like this show. I said they never ever waste my time, but I feel like this is the 8 millionth show that HBO has done of this type, where you got Oscar-winning actress plopped down in a town. There's a murder in that town that needs a solving, and then there's all kinds of various things going on amongst the town people in between each other that can cause friction or cause issues, and secrets come to light and all this kind of generic shit, right? So I felt like this is a show, at least after the first episode, this is a very formulaic and generic show that has yet to show me what would set it apart from anything else. Like, you look at The Undoing, here's your mystery, your murder mystery, and you got Nicole Kidman, your Oscar-winning actress, but it stood out because it had Hugh Grant knocking the ball out of the park, and it had a whole lot of other intriguing aspects of it that I'm not going to get into because they're very spoilerific, but they do a lot of great stuff with Hugh Grant's character there. You take something like Big Little Lies, again, you got murder, but then in this case, and you again have a town of people that are all central to whatever this murder is. They all know each other, but this time you have like rich, entitled, privileged white women who have to deal with the repercussions of their actions that their entitlement can't help them escape from. So that gives you like a little bit more intrigue into this sort of story, even with like Perry Mason or The Outsider. Like, you have again, we got to solve a murder kind of deal, and we're in a town, and the people in the like, it's the same kind of thing, right? But Perry Mason gave you like a period piece. It also gave you a little bit of the supernatural in there as well, and then The Outsider gave you a ton of the supernatural. It was super suspenseful. Like, there was something different. This feels incredibly generic. Like, it feels like it's a very plain, boring, small town. It's filmed in a way that's very similar. It's filmed in a way to make you think gritty, like something like The Wire, like this kind of like almost like bluish kind of tone to it that feels very like visceral and just kind of just, this is just regular people just living in lower to, we'll say lower middle class lives in these neighborhoods, and they each got a past, and I have this ex who has this new person, and that's an issue. I have my daughter, and she's doing this, and I have my grandson, and this episode was just building out this community and letting you know, or showing you how interconnected all of these people are. It's such a small town. They all know each other. There was a moment like earlier in the episode where a woman's on TV and she's talking about her daughter that's been missing for over a year, and Kate Winslet's character, whose name is Mare Sheehan, and I'm curious about the name, and I'm wondering if we're gonna get there at some point. But Mare of Easttown. Mare is the name of like a girl horse. I don't know why. I don't know why a character would have that name or why a show would have that name, and I'm curious to see how that I'm just wondering why they chose that word, mayor. But anyway, Kate Winslet, I'll call her mayor since I remember the name. She's got a whole lot of shit going on in this town. Like I said, the woman who's on TV talking about her daughter being missing, we find out that this is a case that Mayor was working on for over a year, or has been working on for a year, or working on for over a year, and nothing's come of it. And they're going to call in, county big dogs to come and help her out. And from my perspective, at the time that this scene happens, this is just a case, one of her cases. It's not until later that I see, because this community is so small, which I didn't realize how small it was really until this moment, almost everybody is interconnected from having played on the same basketball team as her. So like they're having a 25-year anniversary of this state title, and the woman with the missing kid was on the team. Like almost everybody we've seen who was a woman up to this point was on this team. So they're all connected in that way. You have, what else do we have here? She also has a friend who was on that team who she spends a lot of time with. She lives with her parents, well, her mom, and then her daughter and grandson live there. We don't know where the mother of the grandson is, because I thought it was the daughter, but I don't think it is. It looks like the daughter is gay. The father, her son, I believe, is dead. We don't know how. And there's just all these kinds of things that kind of just make up like middle class, I don't want to say rural life, because it's not rural, but like not big city like Philly, because I believe it takes place in Pennsylvania, or actually I think it takes place in Philly. Actually, while I'm over here talking like not Philly, I believe it takes place in Philly, but it's still a small town, and or maybe Easttown is maybe like a suburb of Philly. I don't know why Philly is stuck in my head. I feel like it's in Philly, but you learn how small this town is because all of these people are connected in one way or another. Give you an example of just how connected these people are. Like I mentioned, everyone's on this basketball team, right? Same day as the anniversary of this this championship game that Mare apparently hit some big shot in, is an engagement party for her ex-husband and his now new fiance. And the ex-husband lives behind her. So she's out on her patio, and she can see everybody who she would probably like to be at the ceremony for her basketball shot at this guy, at her ex-husband's engagement party. And that's got her own fucking family. Her mom went to that party. So, you're learning about just how these people are connected, what life is like in this town. And that's really what this episode is just building that out. It was a pretty boring episode, if I'm being honest. Again, we're learning about these characters and we're learning about what life is like in this town, but nothing really happens until the murder at the end. And coincidentally, the murder was of the character that I found the most interesting on the show. I'm like, oh, this character is interesting. And now they're dead. Okay. So, but you had the murder at the end. So now we have the murder from a year ago that is unsolved, that we're going to have, county come in to help Mare figure that one out. We have a new murder now going on. And then we also have to wonder about, I think we need to fill in some of the details of the past. We need to know what happened to her son. There are 2 or 3 related police calls that were made. And I haven't mentioned that Mare is a detective on the police force in this town. There was a couple police calls that were made that I think that are gonna come back around later as well, especially particularly in regards to who killed this character. We have one about a peeping Tom. There's a second situation where there's a woman who her brother breaks into her house and steals her shit, supposedly to buy drugs or whatever. And I thought that scene and that dynamic in this episode was probably the best part of the episode. There's a scene where Mare goes to arrest the guy. She tells him, you can go back home, and his heat's off. It's illegal for them to have the heat off during winter months, so she's gonna call and make sure the heat gets back on. In the meantime, he can stay at a shelter, yada yada yada. And he asked the sister, hey, can he crash with you? She's like, no, there's no way. I can't do this anymore. And she's like, I know this sounds terrible, but I almost wish he would just die and get it over with. And that sounds terrible, but if you're dealing with somebody who's addicted to opioids like this guy supposedly is, that's got to be one of those things where it's you feel like the death is inevitable at one point or another, and you just kind of she probably just wants it to end, like this up and down ride of like, oh, for a few minutes he's fine, and the next minute he's high out of his mind and breaking into my house, stealing all my stuff, that sort of thing. So I think it's probably torturous for both her and the brother. So like that idea of like I almost wish he would just die, so die and get it over with, was a very impactful moment. I thought that was a pretty good scene. But all in all, I found this episode to be pretty boring. I'm gonna give it one more. If the second one doesn't really pull me in, I'm probably gonna nope out of this show. I don't want to spend too much time on something that my biggest takeaway from it is that it's incredibly generic. It's something that HBO is now kind of making a habit out of doing, and this does not feel to be anywhere on par with the high level of shows, similar shows that HBO has done to this point. So why would I force myself through all 7 episodes? So I'll probably give it a second one to see if it's something that really pulls me in. But as of right now, I don't really find it that interesting. I don't really find it interesting. I don't really find it that entertaining. I'm slightly interested to see what happens, but we spent an hour in this episode really on just character development and setting, like, building out what this town is like. And I don't have any problem with that sort of thing, but the problem is that none of the characters in the town are that interesting. So it's like, this feels really just bland to me at this point. So we'll see, but that's how I feel on that one right now. If I next Sunday at 10, I'll probably watch the second episode. If I do a video on it, that's probably an indication that I'm going to keep watching it. If I don't do a video, that's an indication that I'm not. So I may or may not see you in a week to talk about the second episode. But for now, peace.